Okay, first things first. What type of fish keeper are you? And what type of fish do you want to keep? Now, are you the fish keeper that's going to breed them? Or are you the fish keeper that's going to aquascape every single tank that you get and make it absolutely perfect to the point to where it's going to drive you nuts if it isn't? All right, so me, I like to breed fish. It took me a long time to realize that I enjoyed breeding them more than I liked just keeping a tank. So once you figure that out, then you can move on to the next question. What type of fish do you want? Because the fish is probably your most expensive part of fish keeping, because you will constantly turn fish and turn fish and turn fish over in your fish room until you figure out which ones that you like and which ones you want to keep. Now, if you know that already, then you can move on to this part. How many tanks, what tanks, and when to buy them? Okay? How many tanks? That question's solved by, if you're going to breed them, you need fry tanks, quarantine tanks, breeder tanks, and grow out tanks. That's what you need. Now, if you're just going to aquascape, then you can get whatever tanks you want. Now, if you're going to go and buy tanks, you can buy tanks on OfferUp or Craigslist or from friends or even Goodwill. But take in mind when you do that, there's little things that will bother you, and I have come to find that out the hard way. If you buy them like that and you go through all the hard work of resealing them and doing all of that to save $15, well, you'll get done and you'll put the water in, and you know what? There might be a scratch right here, or there'll be a scratch over there or something. It'll always bother you. But if you buy your tanks new and you catch them on the $1 per gallon sale at Petco, you can get you some nice aquariums and just get it going. So once you get your tanks, then you work on to the next part. What filtration are you going to want? All right, do you want to do canisters? Do you want to do sponge? Do you want to do hang on the backs? Okay, now I highly suggest that you run sponge filters with the small to medium size fish room. Sponge filters works great because you can quarantine all of your problems, all of your sick, if you have sick fish or whatever, it'll stay right there in that one tank with sponge filters. All right, now if you run hang on the backs, do the same with that too, but when you run hang on the backs, you tend to up your electric bill too. Now if you want to like behind me, you'll see I have my saltwater tank. That tank right there is purely my tank. That means nothing to any of my fish room. That's the tank that I like coming in here and looking at the fish that I got. I got that as just a fun tank to do. I highly suggest everybody has that tank for themselves. So now that you're past all of that, you got to take in mind how much all of this stuff costs, because your lighting itself can cost anywhere between $30 to $150 per light. Your pumps, you can even catch these pumps on sale at PetSmart for under $20. Your air pumps, you know, the Tetra 60s. You know, your sponge filters. Sponge filters are anywhere between $10 to $20 a piece. You know, and then you got sand. What kind of sand are you going to use? The sand, you can get bulk bags of sand from Home Depot for under $10 a bag at 60 pounds. Well, you get what? 180 pounds of sand, you can do pretty much your entire fish room. But there's those certain tanks that you want to do certain fish, you got to have certain sand with. It's fun stuff like that that you have to take in mind when you're wanting to do this, because some things can come and bite you in the butt. Now, medications, medications and water conditioner and your bacteria supplement, that stuff, it can get costly at certain times. So what you want to do is you want to look and see all the time if there's any sales going on any of the meds, because if you see sales on meds, grab them then, because you know at some point you're going to run into that problem in your fish room. And it goes the same with Prime. Seachem Prime is a great water conditioner to use, and Seachem Safe as well. It's a powder formula. I just use Prime because I really don't have that many tanks, and to be quite honest, I like going to the fish store, so Prime, getting a bottle of Prime for $5 or $6 on, matching PetSmart.com gives me a reason to go and visit. So I tend to do that. Now, that's one way of saving on that stuff. And then you got your test kits. Your test kits can get expensive too. You want to use your test kit where you have the bottles and all of that to test your water like that, rather than the test strips. Your bottles will actually give you a better reading. It is an expensive hobby, but once you narrow it down to the things that you want to keep, it'll kind of level itself out. Now, I promise you, the chance of you ever making your money back in the fish for raising and breeding and selling them back probably won't ever happen, because the length it takes to grow some fish out and versus the cost, it just isn't there. Some African cichlids can take up to 8 months just to even sell, to get to the right size. As a prime example, my Similis take anywhere between 6 to 7 months of growing them out with water changes to get them to a shippable size. Now, when you have your peacocks, some of those can be at about 5 to 6 months if you're really pushing water changes right. It depends on what you want, and it depends on what you're willing to put into it. You got to go into it smart, and you got to go into it knowing what you're getting yourself into. If you go in wanting a fish room and you go in over your head, you will bury yourself. You already have to assume that your electric bill is going to be higher, because you're going to put more tanks and more electric stuff in here as far as your heaters and lighting and stuff like that. I highly suggest that you figure out what type of fish keeper you are, and once you know that, everything should roll right along, and you should have a successful fish room. But if you can't figure out what kind of fish keeper you are, then it's going to hurt. The constant turn of fish, constant buying of fish is what will kill you. Raleigh, once again, thanks for having me. Peace.